Hello future nurses, welcome back to Easy Nurse, where nursing education made easy. So today I am going to take live regarding the midwifery and gynecology. So mainly in this session we will discuss regarding the sexuality. So what do you mean by the sexuality? So sexuality is nothing but like each person they are going to experience their sexual desire. So it's a physical need according to the Maslow hierarchy, right? So it's a desire which unique to him or herself, as well as they are going to different stimuli can trigger the feelings. So both the female as well as the male, they are responsible to any kind of the sexual stimuli by experiencing a cycle of events. So mainly this the sexual cycle, it depends on the three stage. First is the gametogenesis, fertilization and implantation. So it starts from the gametogenesis and ends with the implantation as well as delivery of the baby. So now come to the gametogenesis. What do you mean by the gametogenesis? So gametogenesis is nothing but it is a formation as well as the maturations of the both male gamete and female gamete. So that is called gametogenesis. Male gamete means sperm and female gamete means ovum. So the production and then maturations of the both sperm and ovum is called as a gametogenesis. So it's mainly consists of the two factors. First is spermatogenesis and second is oogenesis. Spermatogenesis is nothing but for the male and oogenesis is for the female. So now see about the spermatogenesis. So spermatogenesis is mainly involved by the developing as well as the maturations of the spermatid. So spermatid is nothing but like a sperm cell. Okay, so that is haploid cell. So the formation and then maturations of the haploid healthy sperm cell, that is called spermatid, from the male germ cell or spermatozoa. And thus differentiations of the spermatozoa from the spermatids, this phase is known as a spermatogenesis. So in this phase, see the spermatogenesis like spermatogonium. So that is 2n. 2n is nothing but like diploid, means 23 pair of chromosome are present. After that, it's divided into the two cells. After that, it's come as a primary spermatocyte, and that is also diploid by meiosis 1. Again, the meiosis 1 is happened, and from the diploid cell means 2n, it's come as a n and n. 2n means 2 haploid cell, so that is called secondary spermatocyte. So from the secondary spermatocyte, again meiosis 2 cell division is happening. So from this the n, they are not going to divide the cell, they are going to create a replicate cell. So from 1, again here 2 haploid cell is coming, and from this haploid cell again 2 haploid cell is coming. So total 4 n or haploid cell is coming through the meiosis 2. So that is called secondary spermatocyte, okay, as a replicant. So from this the mature sperm cell is coming. So after developing or after this formations of the secondary spermatocyte replicant cell, it is coming and mature as well as it's coming as a male sperm cell as well as a mature sperm cell. That is also N or haploid. So that is the main spermatogenesis. Now spermatogenesis is also consists of the two process. First is the spermatocytosis. Spermatocytosis is nothing but it's a formations of the spermatid from the spermatocyte. Means from the spermatogonia to till the meiosis 2. This process is known as a spermatocyte, and spermiogenesis is nothing but conversion of the spermatids into the spermatozoa. Means spermatid as a mature sperm cell. So from the spermatid to the last portion or as a mature sperm cell, this process is known as a spermiogenesis. So first 3 phase is spermatocytosis and last 1 phase is spermiogenesis. So this is all are about spermatogenesis as well as the male germ cell production. So now come to the female, that is oogenesis. Oogenesis is nothing but same as like spermatogenesis, but here development as well as the maturations of ovum. Ovum is nothing but it's a maturations of the egg formation which is coming from the ovary, right? So mature egg formation is called ovum. So development and maturations of ovum is known as a oogenesis. So mainly the egg formation which takes place in the ovaries, right? So from the ovary it is releasing into the fallopian tube, and after maturations of the ovum, if they are going for the penetration, so the sperm will come, and that time they will penetrate it and they will fuse it and they will come as a zygote. So that is the main formation, but oogenesis is mainly focused on the developing and maturations of the ovum cell. So see the process. First is oogonium as well as the stem cell. So that is 46 or 23 pair. So that is diploid cell. So during the fetal life or the before birth only it will be present for each and every female person. Okay, so after that mitosis is coming. So through the mitosis they are creating a replicate. See 46 they are also 2n and 2n means diploid cell. That is called daughter oogonium. So from the daughter oogonium it's growing, and during the puberty or after the puberty time, so it is coming as a primary oocyte, or it will create or it will act as a mature ovum cell. So primary oocyte, after that meiosis 1 is happen. So through the meiosis what happens? Cell division will be happen, but through the mitosis cell division will not be happen. Through the mitosis only replicant cell will be produced. So here meiosis 1 is happening, so 46 will come as a 23 and 23 or haploid cell. So first 23 pair of cell is called as a fast polar body. It will never play any role in this sexuality. And secondary, that is secondary oocyte or 23 pair of N. So secondary oocyte, again it will come, it will go for the meiosis 2. So meiosis 2 means again it will be creating as a replicate cell. So that is secondary polar body 1 and 1 is mature ovum. So secondary polar body and fast polar body, they are not creating any role during the sexual period. So after the secondary oocyte, when it will gone for the fertilization, then only it will create as a ovum. Means that time periods or the menstruation cycle is going to be happen for the woman. So that's why from the ovary mature ovum are coming. So that is the process of the oogenesis. So first is oogonium, then mitosis, from their daughter oogonium there is a replicant. After that during the growth or after puberty time it is coming as a primary oocyte, that is also 46 or haploid. After that meiosis 1 is happening, from the 23 or haploid 2 cell is coming. First is fast polar body and second is secondary oocyte. During the fertilization, when menstrual cycle will be produced for the female person, so that time what will happen? It will create as a ovum or the mature ovum, and which will be takes place for as a fertilization process. Okay, and in this case there are two polar body they are going to produce, but in the sexuality they are not playing any role. So that is all about spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So now come to the next, that is fertilization. So what do you mean by the fertilization? Fertilization is nothing but it's a two gametes. When the two gametes, reproductive cells having a single haploid set of chromosome, means 23 pair of the chromosome, right? 23 and 23. So when from the ovum or from the female side 23 ovum, 23 haploid cell is coming, as well as from the male side 23 is coming. So 23 when they are coming and they are fusing and they are creating as a diploid cell as well as a fertilized cell or fertilized zygote. So that time it's called as a fertilization. So it's nothing but when haploid cell or haploid 2 sexual cell is coming and fusing together and creating as a diploid cell. So that time it's called as a zygote, and this process is known as a fertilization. So mainly this process of fusion of male and female gamete in the ampullary part. Ampullary part is nothing but it's a fallopian tube which is attached with the uterus of female body. So this ampullary part only they are creating, and then fallopian tube as well as from the zygote. So see this image, oogenesis. So through the oogenesis what is coming? That is ovum, and from the spermatogenesis mature sperm, right? So this sperm and this ovum and this sperm they are coming and fusing together or fertilized. After that what is coming? That is zygote or 2n as well as the diploid cell. So that process is known as a fertilization. Now come to the process of fertilization. So process of fertilization, it consists of the three steps. First is transportation of the gametes, second is approximation of the gametes, and third one is fusion of the gametes. So first is transportation of the gametes. Transportation of the gametes is nothing but after ejaculation or after doing unprotected sexual intercourse, the semen, they will start to run inside of the uterus. So that is called transportation of the gametes. So the movement as well as the ability of each and every healthy sperm, there is some capability. Okay, so see, after ovulation, fimbriated end of the fallopian tube. So fallopian tube is like this, right? So there is some finger like structure, so that is called fimbri. So from the fimbriated end of the fallopian tube, the sweeps of the ovary and then movement produced into the cilia. So from there only the ovary is attached. So from the ovary, mature ovum is coming and slips into the cilia part of the fallopian tube. So after the single ejaculation, around 200 million sperm, they are going to deposit by the male body into the vagina, and it's that only 500 to 400 sperm or healthy sperm is able to reach until the uterine tube by contraction of the uterine wall as well as the muscular contraction of fallopian tube. So as I said, the movement of the each and every healthy sperm, there are some certain factors. First, the individual factor of each and every healthy sperm as well as uterine tube contraction, uterine wall contraction, and then muscular contraction of fallopian tube. Now come to the approximation of the gametes. So approximation of the gametes, this process is also consist of the three steps. First is capacitation, acrosomal reaction, and penetration of the zona pellucida. So capacitation is nothing but suppose one healthy sperm, whoever will be reach fast till the fallopian tube near to the mature ovum, so they will start to produce, they start to penetrate the anterior wall of the mature ovum. Okay, so that is called capacitation. Now come to the acrosomal reaction. Acrosomal reaction is nothing but it's a intoxicity events. Okay, so they will start to produce more enzyme in that area and they will start to dilate this kind of anterior wall of the mature ovum. Okay, so what will happen after doing this, after fusing to the anterior wall, they will penetrate that wall and they will enter into the mature ovum and they will release the mature sperm germ cell into the ovum. So that time only the fertilization will be takes place. So that is called acrosomal. And next is the penetration of zona pellucida. As I said, after fusing they will go and they will penetrate the mature healthy sperm or the 2N gamete into the mature ovum. So that is called fertilization as well as the zygote formation. Okay, so that is this process are known as the approximation of gametes. Now come to the sperm and oocyte binding. So once the sperm is going to be penetrate the zona pellucida or the most anterior wall of the mature ovum, so that time what happen, it's bind and fuses with the plasma membranes of the oocyte. Okay, and the binding occurs at the posterior region of the sperm head. So now come to the implantation. So after sexuality, this every process is happen. Now come to the implantation, means after zygote formations. So implantation is nothing but it is a first stage of the human pregnancy in which the embryo, they started to adhere to the uterine wall, which is known as a implantation. So which wall they are mainly going to implant it, that is endometrium wall of the uterus. Okay, so during this the prenatal developmental stage, what happened, this conceptus which is termed as a blastocyte. So at that period, this zygote formation or the cell fused form of the fetus is known as a blastocyte. So this blastocyte is started, or human embryo, they started to receive required nutrition and oxygen as well as for growing from the mother's body. So all the requirements or all the healthy requirements whatever is needed for the growing of that particular fetus, so they started to take from the mother's circulation system as well as the mother's body. So now come to the process of the implantation. So there are some steps. First, every 28 days as well as the human ovary release one mature egg. So after completions of each menstrual cycle, within the 28 days the mature ovary start to produce the mature egg. Okay, so this process is known as a ovulation. So that time if the mother or if that woman is gone for the unprotected sexual intercourse, there is a chance to get a pregnant. So after this ovulation, this fertilization process starts as the egg moves to the fallopian tube. So after producing of the eggs, again it start to move to the fallopian tube, because fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube only. So in that place they start to move and can stay in the tube for about 24 hours. So after ovulation they will stay there up to 24 hours. Okay, so after that, if they are going for the sexual intercourse, means during sex, a male sperm cells travel through the female reproductive tract, means from the uterus, means it will start from the cervix, then vagina, then uterus, then fallopian tube. So through the fallopian tube it will go and try to merge with the egg within the fallopian tube proximity. Means at the end or at the merge part of the fallopian tube, they will try to produce. They will try to fuse it. Okay, so once the sperm cell is fused within the mature egg cell, so what will happen? This conception process or the implantation process is start. So after conception, the sperm fertilizes an egg, which is called as a fertilization. So during this phase, a single cell, that is zygote, is formed. So which after fertilization, which cell is going to be formed at the first stage, so that is called zygote. So after zygote formation, what's happened? Again it's going to divide rapidly and moves towards the uterus through the fallopian tube, and then the fertilized egg is about the 7 days to reach the uterus. Okay, so during this movement, through the multiple cell division is happening through the mitosis as well as the meiosis. So after this, the zygote turns into the minimum 200 cell divisions, as that time is called as a blastocyte, because 200 cell divisions is happening in one single layer. So that time it's called as a blastocyte. After reaching this uterus, what happened? This blastocyte remains in the uterine cavity for 1 day and eventually adheres to the uterine lining. So that is called endometrium. Means after fertilization, zygote is not only going to implant in the endometrium, blastocyte only going to implant in the endometrium. So that time it's called as a dystocia. Okay, so that is the process of implantation. And last step, other surface of fertilized ovum starts developing. Blastocyte moves inside of the deeper tissue, restoring its lining. So now you can say me, like, process of implantation, they are saying like 28 days, and so they are taking as a minimum time after ovulation. Why they are staying as a 24 hours? If within this 24 hours, if the woman or male person is not going for any sexual intercourse, so what will happen? There is a no fertilization, right? So for that time, this mature ovum or the mature egg cell, it will come through the menstrual cycle from outside of the body. Okay, other than that, it will go for the fertilization. So that is the process of implantation as well as the fertilization. Now come to the fetal development. So first is zygote, then blastocyte. When it's implanted, that is called dystocia. So after that, it's coming as a fetus. So how this the blastocyte is growing and becoming as a fetus? So see, the fetal development is begin soon after the conception. So fetal growth is mainly divided into the 3 periods. First is ovular period, embryo period, then fetal period. So based on the cell division, based on the height as well as the length of the fetus, the period is also gradually increasing. So first week, what is happened? That is called blastocyst, right? So it's as a free floating inside of the uterus. Next is the second and third week. What should be the image? Embryo should be 2 mm in length. Blood circulation will be started inside of the fetus body, as well as heart also become as a tubular, but you can't find any heartbeat inside of the fetus. Now come to the 5th week. So in the 5th week, the changes are like embryo become 4 to 6 mm in length and 0.4 gram should be in the weight. Okay, and double heart chamber which can be visible, as well as heart begins to beat. This is most important. Heart begins to beat at which time? That is within the 5th week. So if doctors will not, or we can't find out the heartbeat within the 5th week of the pregnancy period, so it means there is a miscarriage. Okay, so that is the most most important point within the fifth week, that is heart begins to start as a beating. So now come to the next 8 to 12th week. So within this period, embryo should be 3 to 8 centimeter in length and 2 gram to 45 gram should be in the weight. Eyelids also begins to fuse, and circulatory system also starts to work, as well as kidney also start to produce urine. So that time there is some complication is also happening for the mother based on the accumulation of the amniotic fluid surrounding of the baby, either oligohydramnia as well as a polyhydramnia. Next, nail and muscle also become developed for the fetus, as well as sex is also visually recognized. Now come to the 16th and then 20th week. So during this phase, active movements you can see, or you can judge through the ultrasonography for the fetus, and fetal skin also becomes so transparent. Fetus become 19 centimeter in length, as well as fetus weight should be 465 gram, and enamel as well as a dentin also start to depositing for the fetus. Next, come to the 24 to 28 week. During this time, like fetus become 28 centimeter to 38 centimeter in the length, and 780 gram to 1200 gram in the weight, and hair on the head is also well formed, as well as limbs also become well flexed, and skin becomes started to reddish as well as a wrinkled, and vernix caseosa is started to cover all over the entire body, and lungs also started to develop sufficiently to provide the gas exchange. So in this time, if the baby is going to deliver, so it means there is a premature birth. Next is the 32 to 36th week, or as like near to the term phase. So that time fetus become 40 to 48 centimeter in length and 2000 to 2500 gram in the weight, and bones are for completely developed, subcutaneous fat also already collected, and lanugo is disappearing. Lanugo is nothing but is all entire body. There is some hair should be present before the 32 weeks, okay, which will be helpful to maintaining the temperature. So that is called lanugo. So this lanugo or the hair is started to disappear. Now come to the 40th week, or the term phase. So that is fetus 48 to 52 centimeter in the length, and 3000 to 3600 grams should be the weight, as well as skin structure should be pinkish as well as a smooth, and vernix caseosa also started to decrease in amount, and testes should be in the scrotum phase, and the labia majora is also will be developing for the female fetus. So these all are about the fetal developing period. So now come to the most important topic, that is fetal circulation. So we know that whatever circulation is happening for the adult body, for the fetal circulation, especially inside of the embryo or intrauterine life, the circulation is completely opposite compared to the normal fetus as well as the normal adult body, right? So see, this cardiovascular system which is develops early in the embryonic stage of the development, and which phase, that is 5th week. So this starts towards the end of the 3rd week as well as beginning of the 4th week of the fetal development. So when this cardiovascular system or the circulatory system is fully established, blood circulation commences at the embryo can directly derive nutrients from its own blood supply. So that is all about a review of the fetal circulation. Okay, so now I show you one flow chart about the fetal circulation. So see the placenta. So placenta is the main factor from where the baby or the fetus is getting all the micronutrient circulation system, the nutrition from the mother body, right? So through the placenta, this oxygenated blood is come to the umbilical vein. You just remind, oxygenated blood is come to the vein. So normally through the vein, which blood is carrying in the adult body? Deoxygenated blood. For the fetal circulation, through the vein, oxygenated blood will be carried out. Okay, so through the umbilical vein, oxygenated blood is coming to the liver through the hepatoportal vein. Okay, as a hepatoportal vein, it's going to divide it into the two hepatoportal vein. They are going to divide, and they are circulating the oxygenated blood to the liver. So from the umbilical vein, it's come to the ductus venosus. Some amount, like 90% blood is come to the ductus venosus. After the ductus venosus is come to the inferior vena cava. So in the inferior vena cava at a same time from the liver also oxygenated blood is coming. Okay, so from the liver oxygenated blood is coming to the inferior vena cava. Through the ductus venosus 90% oxygenated blood is come to the inferior vena cava. At the same time from the lower parts of the fetus body deoxygenated blood is come to the inferior vena cava. So in the inferior vena cava is a part where oxygenated and deoxygenated both blood are mixing, right? So from the inferior vena cava it's come to the right atrium. So when it will come to the right atrium, obviously blood pressure will be increased into the right atrium and it start to constrict, right? So after the constriction through the foramen ovale shunt, it's come to the left atrium. So after coming to the left atrium, again the blood pressure will be increased to the left atrium. So it will pump and it will send to the left ventricle. So from the left ventricle it's come to the aorta. So aorta, from the aorta it's come to the systematic circulation. Systematic circulation is nothing but all over body. So that is one of the pathway where blood is come to the aorta. So from the placenta, umbilical vein, then right atrium, through foramen ovale to left atrium, left ventricle to aorta. This is one pathway. Now come to the next part, that is from the right atrium. What happened? The blood is come to the right ventricle. How much percentage? 95% blood is come to the right ventricle. So from the right ventricle through the pulmonary arteries, the blood is come to the pulmonary trunk. So just to remind, pulmonary arteries. So through the pulmonary arteries it's come to the pulmonary trunk. So from the pulmonary trunk again it's come to the lungs. So here oxygenation as well as the deoxygenated blood is mixed. So lungs, what is the main function of the lungs? The oxygenation, right? So the lungs, all blood they are going to purify as a oxygenated. So after this oxygenated blood they are sending to the pulmonary veins, and through the pulmonary veins it's come to the left atrium. So from the left atrium again left ventricle, then aorta. This is the second pathway where blood is come to the aorta. So from the left atrium through right ventricle, through pulmonary trunk, then pulmonary veins, then again left ventricle to aorta. This is the second pathway. So now come to the third part, that is from the pulmonary trunk. Again some amount of the blood is come to the ductus arteriosus. So from the ductus arteriosus directly it's come to the aorta. This is the third pathway. So from in the aorta the three pathway is present where blood is coming, either oxygenated or deoxygenated. Okay. So in the aorta again it's come to the systematic circulation. So in the systematic circulation is nothing but some amount of the blood they are sending to the other parts of the body like lower limbs, upper limbs, etc. And some amount of the blood they are sending to the brain and brain tissue. Okay, so that is called systematic circulation. So from there again it's come to the umbilical arteries, and from the umbilical arteries and again from the umbilical arteries deoxygenated blood come to the placenta, and from the placenta again deoxygenated as well as oxygenated blood come to the umbilical vein. So this is all the flow chart of the fetal circulation, how it's actually happen in the fetus body. Okay, so now come to the next, that is placenta. So we have to know about the placenta. Placenta is nothing but it's formed from the chorionic frondosome as well as the decidua. So this is the structure of the placenta. So mainly this placenta, when it's going to be started as a produce, that is 6th week of the pregnancy, and it's going to be completed by the 12th week of the pregnancy. Okay, so see the diameter, 15 to 20 centimeter diameter, thickness is 2.5 centimeter, and weight is 500 gram of 1/6 baby's weight. So what should be the baby's weight? Placental weight should be 1/6 of the baby's weight. So placenta is started to separate after the birth of baby from decidua spongiosum. So these all are about the placental overview. Now come to the surfaces of placenta. There are mainly two surfaces, maternal as well as the fetal. So placenta is lined internally by the amniotic membrane and chorionic plate, and externally by the basal plate, as well as in between two lies is a choriodecidual space which is containing with the stem villi, which is creating or which is circulating the blood into the branches. So this space filled with the maternal blood. So the surface are following, as I said, maternal and then fetal surface. So maternal surface is always very rough and spongy, red dull color, and 15 to 20 lobes you can see, which is separated from each other by the furo. Furo is nothing but like finger-like fimbri structure, and fetal surface which is covered by the amnion as well as the umbilical cord, and branches of the umbilical vessels are visible beneath the membrane. Now come to the structure of the placenta. So mainly it is the largest fetal organ inside of the uterus during the conception period. So placenta which is undergoes a rapid development over the course of pregnancy. So where placenta is started to developing, so as a structure as well as a size, so then only the physiological changes also going to be happen. So by the time of the baby is brought to the term, so it has a flat round disc like shape structure which is about 22 centimeter in diameter, with the walls which is typically between 2 and 2.5 centimeter, and this structure of the placenta is also typically sits along the back wall of the uterine wall about 6 centimeter from the cervix. Okay. So structure of the placenta from fetal to maternal cervix. What are the layer? First, amniotic membrane. Next come to the chorionic plate, and last is the choriodecidual plate, as well as it's also known as a maternal sinus. So next is the placental circulation. So it's mainly two independent circulation. First is the maternal as well as the fetal circulation. So maternal circulation is nothing but 120 spinal arteries are present. So through this maternal sinus or through the spinal arteries, the circulation is happening, and venous blood is collected by the venous channel. So fetal circulation is nothing but through the umbilical cord is happening, where two umbilical arteries and one umbilical vein is present. So mainly these umbilical arteries are carried out the deoxygenated blood. Normally in the human body, arteries are carrying the oxygenated blood. So that is the difference. So umbilical arteries is carried the deoxygenated blood, and umbilical vein is carried the oxygenated blood. In the adult body, vein is always carrying the deoxygenated blood. So from fetus to the chorionic plate of placenta. So see the maternal blood and fetal blood. So what are the things they are transferring from maternal to fetal? So oxygen, water as electrolytes, nutrients, hormones, antibodies, drugs, as well as some amount of the viruses. And from the fetal to mother body, what are the things they are going to transfer? Carbon dioxide, dioxide, H2O, as well as any urea, then waste products as well as the hormones. So now come to the functions of the placenta. So there are several functions are present. First is the respiratory functions. So respiratory functions by supplying the oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide from maternal to fetal side and fetal to maternal side. Next is the nutritive function. As I said, like placenta is one of the main factors which is carrying all the nutritive factors whichever is required for the fetus for the growing. Next is the enzyme production. Mainly they are producing so many enzymes like oxytokinase, carboamino aminase, many things which will be helpful for the physiological changes during the labor period. Next is the barrier function. Barrier function is nothing but it's mainly helpful as a barrier to produce or to prevent some amount of the bacteria passing from one side to another side, as well as some drugs. So what will happen? The drugs toxicity also will not be happen, as well as fetus and mothers also will not getting be affected. And last is the endocrine function as well as the urinary function. So see the respiratory function. Oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are going to pass across the placenta by the simple diffusion. So you just remind this line, the fetal hemoglobin has more affinity and carrying capacity compared to the normal adult human being. Okay, so fetal hemoglobin is more powerful compared to the normal adult. So the rate of diffusion is depends on some factor. First is maternal and fetal gaseous gradient, whether it's a large molecule or small molecule. Next, maternal and placental blood flow, then placental permeability as well as the placental surface area. Now come to the nutritive function. So mainly they are transferring nutrient from mother to fetus, which is compared as simple diffusion, like water and electrolytes they are supplying. Through the facilitated diffusion they are supplying glucose. Through the active diffusion they are supplying the amino acid, and through the pinocytosis they are supplying the large protein molecules as well as the cells from mother body to the fetal body. Now come to the excretory function. So in this waste products of the fetus as urea, which is passed to the maternal blood by the simple diffusion through the placenta. So enzyme production is nothing but, as I said, they are producing so many enzymes due to the physiological changes which will be helpful during the labor period. So what are the enzyme? Oxytokinase, monoamino oxidase, insulinase, as well as the histamine and Higgs stable alkaline phosphatase. So thus the productions of the pregnancy associated plasma plasma protein, PAPP. This enzyme also they are going to produce. So under this PAPP there are several factors. First is the PAPPA, B, C, D as well as the PP5. So these all are the enzyme they are going to produce. Now come to the barrier function. So barrier function is nothing but the fetal blood in the chorionic villi which is going to separate it from the maternal blood in the intervillar space by the placental barrier. So it's obviously is an incomplete barrier because some virus, some drugs, something is gradient there which is able to pass the barrier. So it allows to cross what are the things like antibodies, especially the immunoglobulin G. Next is the hormones, antibodies or sedatives during the term pregnancy whichever the mother is going to use, small viruses like rubella, smallpox, etc., and some organisms like Treponema pallida, and large molecule substance like heparin as well as the insulin which can't pass through the placenta. Now come to the abnormalities of the placenta. So I am giving you like some example of the abnormalities of the placenta, but you just go through about thoroughly. Okay. So first is the succenturiate placenta. Succenturiate placenta incidence is 5%. So result is nothing but when one as well as the more small accessory lobe should be developed in the membrane at a distance from the periphery of the main placenta. Means one inside of the one membrane when two or three more lobes should be present inside of a single placenta. So that time it's called as a succenturiate placenta. Next is the membranaceous placenta. So it's nothing but like fetal membranes. All fetal membranes is going to be covered by the functional villi of the placenta, which is develop a thin membranous structure occupying the entire periphery of the chorion. Okay, so that is called membranaceous placenta. Means membrane is only should be present, other factors or other anatomical structure should not be present. It will be very thin structure. Now come to the next, that is extracordial placenta, or under this like circumvallate placenta. Circumvallate placenta is nothing but like fetal surface is placenta present a central depression which is surrounded by a thickened grayish white ring. So that is called circumvallate placenta. And next is the circummarginate placenta. Circummarginate placenta is nothing but when this ring is consist with the placental margin, chorion as well as the amnion, and they are also going to rest in the margin by interposed decidua and fimbriae, but without folding the membrane. Means molding formations of the membrane should not be present. Completely they are going to covered by the decidua as well as the fimbriae. So that time it's called as a circummarginate placenta. Okay. So in this session I discussed about the sexuality as well as some other topics. I hope you all understood my session. Again we'll meet in next session. Till that keep learning and stay tuned with the easiness. Thank you.